Have you ever witnessed someone showing complete disrespect to a war hero? I have. And what happened next changed not just my perspective on respect, but the lives of everyone involved. Picture this: an elderly veteran proudly standing at attention, saluting as our national anthem played. Then imagine a loud-mouthed biker cursing at him, telling him to get out of the way. Shocking, right? What that biker didn't know was that the old man had saved 14 lives in Vietnam. And he certainly had no idea that sitting just 2 tables away was an off-duty army sergeant who witnessed the whole thing. Stay with me until the end to discover how this sergeant and his squad delivered a lesson in respect that no one in that diner will ever forget, and the unexpected twist that left everyone, including me, in tears. Welcome to Honor Echoes, where we share the powerful stories of those who served our country and the ripple effects their courage creates in our everyday lives. I'm your host, and today's story is one that reminds us all that respect isn't just given. It's earned through sacrifice, and it demands to be honored. Before we dive into what happened that fateful day at Rosie's Diner in Augusta, Georgia, take a moment to subscribe to our channel. By hitting that subscribe button, you're not just following us, you're joining a community dedicated to preserving and honoring the legacy of our veterans. You'll receive notifications about new stories that will move you, inspire you, and remind you of the debt we all owe to those who served. Now, let me take you back to that summer morning when I witnessed something I'll never forget. It was a sweltering July morning in Augusta, Georgia. The kind of heat that makes the air shimmer above the asphalt and has everyone seeking refuge in air-conditioned buildings. I had stopped at Rosie's Diner, a local institution known for its blueberry pancakes and endless coffee refills. The place was bustling with its usual morning crowd, families with children enjoying summer vacation, workers grabbing breakfast before their shifts, and the regulars who'd been coming there so long they had their own designated mugs hanging behind the counter. I sat in my usual booth by the window, nursing my second cup of coffee and scrolling through emails on my phone. That's when he walked in. An elderly man, probably in his 80s, wearing a faded Vietnam veteran cap. He moved slowly, with the deliberate steps of someone whose body had endured more than its share of hardship. Despite his age, there was a dignity in his posture, a quiet strength that commanded respect without demanding it. The waitress, Jenny, according to her name tag, greeted him with a warm smile. "Morning, Mr. Collins. Your usual spot is open." Worked. She guided him to a small table near the center of the diner, bringing him a cup of coffee without being asked. It was clear he was a regular, one of those fixtures in a small community that everyone knows. What I didn't realize then was that this ordinary morning was about to become anything but. The diner's old television was tuned to a local news station covering a ceremony at nearby Fort Gordon. As the camera panned across a formation of soldiers, the national anthem began to play. Without hesitation, Mr. Collins rose to his feet, removed his veteran cap, and placed it over his heart. His back straightened as much as his aged spine would allow. And he stood at attention, eyes fixed on the flag displayed on the screen. It was a simple act of patriotism, one that spoke volumes about the man's character and his unwavering respect for the country he had served. Several other patrons noticed, and a respectful hush fell over part of the diner. That's when they arrived, 3 bikers clad in leather despite the heat, their boots heavy on the linoleum floor. They were loud, laughing and cursing as they made their way toward the counter. The tallest one, sporting a thick beard and arms covered in tattoos, bumped into Mr. Collins, who was still standing at attention. "Watch it, old man," he growled, not bothering to lower his voice. Mr. Collins didn't respond. He remained standing, his eyes fixed forward, his hand steady over his heart as the anthem continued to play. The biker's face reddened. "Hey, I'm talking to you." He moved directly in front of Mr. Collins, deliberately blocking his view of the television. "You deaf?" I said, move your ass. You're in the way. Still, Mr. Collins didn't budge. The only indication that he had heard the biker at all was a slight tightening around his eyes. By now, the diner had gone completely silent except for the anthem still playing on the television. Everyone was watching, but no one intervened. Including me, I'm ashamed to say. There's something paralyzing about witnessing such blatant disrespect, a sort of shock that renders you momentarily unable to act. The biker, emboldened by the lack of resistance, leaned in closer. What's the matter, Grandpa? Still playing soldier? The war's over. Nobody gives a shit about your little standing game. Ooh, just as the anthem ended, Mr. Collins finally lowered his hand and looked directly at the biker. There was no anger in his eyes, just a profound sadness. Son, he said quietly, men better than me died for your right to say that. The biker laughed, a harsh sound that seemed to bounce off the diner walls. Whatever, old man. Next time, stay out of my way. He gave Mr. Collins a dismissive shove as he moved past him toward a booth, causing the elderly veteran to stumble back against his table, nearly falling. That's when I noticed him. A younger man, maybe in his mid-30s, sitting 2 tables away. He wore civilian clothes, but everything about him screamed military. The high and tight haircut, the perfect posture, the disciplined way he folded his napkin before standing up. He walked over to Mr. Collins, helped him regain his balance, and made sure he was seated comfortably. "You all right, sir?" he asked, his voice respectful, but tight with controlled anger. Mr. Collins nodded. "I'm fine, son. Thank you." The younger man introduced himself as Sergeant David Martinez, currently stationed at Fort Gordon. He pulled out his phone and stepped outside, but not before casting a long, hard look at the bikers, who were now loudly ordering breakfast, seemingly oblivious to the tension they had created. Life in the diner slowly returned to normal. Conversations resumed, though notably quieter than before. Mr. Collins sipped his coffee, declined Jenny's concerned offer of a free slice of pie, and kept to himself. The bikers continued to be loud and obnoxious, making crude jokes and complaining about the service. Approximately 30 minutes passed. I had just paid my bill and was considering leaving when the diner door opened and Sergeant Martinez returned. This time, he wasn't alone. Behind him were 7 other soldiers in uniform, each one standing tall and proud, their faces serious. The diner fell silent once again as the soldiers filed in. Without a word, they approached Mr. Collins' table. Sergeant Martinez stepped forward. "Mr. Collins," he said, his voice carrying throughout the now silent diner, "Master Sergeant James Collins, 1st Cavalry Division, Vietnam." The elderly veteran looked up, surprise evident on his weathered face. "Yes, that's me." Sergeant Martinez snapped to attention and rendered a perfect salute. "Sir, on behalf of the men and women of the United States Army, we wanted to thank you for your service." One by one, each soldier approached Mr. Collins, introduced themselves, and saluted him with the utmost respect. The old veteran's eyes grew misty as he returned each salute, his hand steadier than it had been all morning. The last soldier to approach was a young woman, a specialist according to her rank insignia. "Master Sergeant Collins," she said, "my grandfather served with you in the Ia Drang Valley. His name was Thomas Rodriguez. He told me stories about you my whole life. You saved his unit during an ambush. He said you carried 2 wounded men through gunfire to safety." Mr. Collins looked at her in astonishment. "Tommy Rodriguez? You're Tommy's granddaughter." When she nodded, tears freely flowing down her cheeks, the old man reached out and took her hand. "Your grandfather was a brave man. He saved my life more than once." The diner was absolutely still, every patron transfixed by the scene unfolding before them. Even Jenny had stopped serving, coffee pots suspended in mid-air as she watched. Sergeant Martinez turned to address the entire diner. Master Sergeant James Collins was awarded the Silver Star for valor in combat. During the Battle of Ia Drang in 1965, his platoon was ambushed by enemy forces. Despite being wounded himself, Sergeant Collins made 3 trips through enemy fire to retrieve wounded comrades, saving 14 lives that day. He paused, letting his words sink in, before continuing. He was shot twice during his 3rd rescue attempt, but still managed to carry Private First Class Rodriguez to safety before collapsing from his own injuries. The specialist stepped forward again. My grandfather lived to come home, to marry my grandmother, to have my mother, and to see me born because of this man's courage. I exist because Master Sergeant Collins refused to leave anyone behind. By now, there wasn't a dry eye in the diner, except for the 3 bikers who shifted uncomfortably in their booth, suddenly very interested in their plates of half-eaten food. Sergeant Martinez wasn't finished. He turned to face the bikers directly. "In our army," he said, his voice firm but controlled, "we're taught respect from day one. Respect for our flag, our country, our uniform, and most importantly, respect for those who served before us, those who sacrificed so that we could enjoy the freedoms we have today." The tallest biker, the one who had shoved Mr. Collins, stared down at his plate. His earlier bravado evaporated. "When you disrespect a veteran," Martinez continued, "you disrespect everything they fought for, everyone they lost, every sacrifice they made. You disrespect me, every soldier standing here, and every American who understands the price of freedom." The biker finally looked up, his face flushed with what appeared to be shame. "Look, man, I didn't know—" "That's right, you didn't know," Martinez cut him off. "You didn't take the time to know who you were shoving, who you were cursing at. You didn't consider that this man might have seen things and done things that would keep you awake at night. You didn't think about the friends he lost or the blood he shed." The diner remained absolutely silent as Martinez took a step closer to the biker's booth. "I'm not asking for an apology. I'm not even asking you to understand. I'm telling you that the next time you see someone standing for our anthem, someone wearing a veteran's cap, you show some respect. Because they've earned it, whether you know their story or not." What happened next surprised everyone. The biker stood up, towering over Sergeant Martinez. For a moment, it seemed like the situation might escalate. Then the biker removed his leather jacket to reveal a faded tattoo on his forearm. A military insignia. "Marines," he said quietly. "2 tours in Iraq. Got out in 2008. He looked past Martinez to Mr. Collins. "There's no excuse for how I acted, sir. His voice cracked slightly. "I haven't been right since I got back. Some days are worse than others." The revelation sent a ripple of murmurs through the diner. Mr. Collins slowly stood up and approached the biker. The contrast between them was striking. The elderly veteran, small and bent with age, standing before the tall, muscular biker. "Son," Mr. Collins said, his voice gentle but firm, "the war changes all of us. It takes things we can't get back. But how we carry that burden, that's still our choice." The biker nodded, visibly struggling with his emotions. "I know, sir. Sometimes I can't control the anger. It comes out of nowhere." Mr. Collins placed a hand on the younger veteran's arm. "I know that road. Walked it for 20 years after Vietnam. Nearly destroyed me, destroyed my family." He glanced at Sergeant Martinez and his squad before continuing. "You need to talk to someone, son. Not just for yourself, but for everyone who cares about you." The biker's 2 companions, looking uncomfortable, revealed that they too were veterans. The 3 of them had met in a support group but had drifted away from treatment, instead finding temporary solace in the freedom of the open road and too often in alcohol. What began as a confrontation transformed into something entirely different. Sergeant Martinez shared information about programs available through the VA. and at Fort Gordon specifically designed for veterans struggling with PTSD and reintegration. The specialist, whose grandfather had suffered similar struggles after Vietnam, spoke about how treatment had saved her family. As this impromptu counseling session continued, Jenny brought fresh coffee for everyone. Other patrons in the diner, many with their own connections to the military in this town so close to Fort Gordon, shared stories and resources. A retired Army nurse offered her card to the bikers, promising to personally help them navigate the often frustrating VA system. Mr. Collins, who had been mostly listening, finally spoke up again. "The hardest battle I ever fought wasn't in Vietnam," he said. "It was the one I fought with myself when I came home, thinking I could handle it alone. That was my biggest mistake." The lead biker, whose name we learned was Ray, wiped at his eyes unashamedly. "I'm sorry, sir, for what I said, for how I acted. There's no excuse." "There's explanation," Mr. Collins corrected him gently. "Not excuse. There's a difference. Now you have a choice about what you do next." By the time I finally left the diner, nearly 2 hours after I had intended to, phone numbers and promises had been exchanged. Sergeant Martinez and his squad had committed to helping the 3 bikers connect with proper resources. Mr. Collins had agreed to attend the next support group meeting with them to share his own journey of healing. As I walked to my car, I noticed Ray, the lead biker, helping Mr. Collins to his vehicle. The elderly veteran said something that made the younger man laugh. A genuine laugh. Perhaps the first one in a long time. They shook hands before parting, 2 men from different wars, but sharing the same invisible wounds. I learned later that Ray and his friends did attend that support group meeting, with Mr. Collins by their side. They began the long, difficult process of healing. Sergeant Martinez and his squad remained involved, creating a network of support that extended beyond what any official program could provide. 6 months later, I returned to Rosie's Diner to find Ray working there part-time while attending community college on his GI Bill benefits. Jenny told me he was studying to become a counselor, specifically to work with combat veterans. Mr. Collins came in every Tuesday and Thursday for breakfast, and Ray always took his break to sit and talk with him. The incident at the diner could have ended very differently. It could have escalated into violence or simply concluded with bitterness and resentment on all sides. Instead, it became a catalyst for healing, a reminder that behind every angry outburst might be a wounded warrior, and that sometimes the battles that follow war are fought not in distant jungles or deserts, but in the hearts and minds of those who served. What I witnessed that day at Rosie's Diner wasn't just about one veteran standing up for another. It was about recognizing that the wounds of war don't always bleed, and that sometimes the people who seem the least deserving of our compassion are the ones who need it most. Today, Ray volunteers with Sergeant Martinez's unit during their community outreach events. Mr. Collins speaks regularly at the VA's PTSD support groups, and the specialist, whose grandfather was saved by Mr. Collins in Vietnam, visits the elderly veteran every week, bringing her children to hear his stories. One moment of disrespect transformed into a lifetime of healing, not just for Ray, but for an entire community of veterans who found strength in each other. If this story touched you, please take a moment to subscribe to Honor Echoes. Every subscription helps us continue sharing these powerful stories of service, sacrifice, and the unexpected ways our veterans continue to impact our lives long after they hang up their uniforms. And if you know a veteran who's struggling, reach out. Sometimes the bravest thing they can do is ask for help. And the most important thing we can do is be there when they do. Until next time, this is Honor Echoes, where every veteran's story deserves to be heard.